It's 4 o'clock in Radio Cairo. We're coming live from Studio 3, Radio Cairo 95.4 FM. This is World of Info. So today is the World Mental Health Day. That's the WHO or the WHO, and the whole world is celebrating. And today we're coming live from Studio 3 with the World of Info. I am Dr. Amr Mabrouk. Muhammad is at the control, and our telephone number is 257-89407. And we are going to start to talk today about the World Mental Health Day. So the World Mental Health Day, 10th of October, is a day for global mental health education, awareness and advocacy against social stigma. It was first celebrated in 1992 at the initiative of the World Federation of Mental Health, a global mental health organization with members and contacts in more than 150 countries. This day, each October, thousands of supporters come to celebrate this annual awareness program to bring attention to mental illness and its major effects on people's life worldwide. In some countries, this day is part of an awareness week, such as the Mental Health Week in Australia. Yes, we have to admit that this is a social stigma that people are sometimes stigmatized with. Any person who's suffering from mental health problem is usually called, for example, as we may say in Arabic, magnoon, and that's it, or somebody who is insane, and therefore these people are considered to be outcast of the society. They are treated as sometimes looked upon with sometimes sympathy or disgust or hate, and for that reason in particular the idea of the World Mental Health Day has been chosen to attract the attention of the whole population of the world, that mental illness is an illness like any other illness. It's like the heart conditions or the kidney conditions or the cancer conditions has to be respected, and utmost care should be given to these patients. And definitely there should be care and support to the family of the mental health patients and their mentally ill patients. And therefore, about this point in particular, and about the awareness, and about how not to give a stigma to these people, we are going to have this program totally dedicated to this subject. So the World Mental Health Day was celebrated for the first time on October 10, 1992, at the initiative of the Deputy Secretary General Richard Hunter. Up until 1994, the day had no specific theme other than general promoting mental health advocacy and educating the public. In 1994, the World Mental Health Day was celebrated with a theme for the first time at the suggestion of the then Secretary General Eugene Brolly. The theme was improving the quality of mental health services throughout the world. So every year they make a day, and this day of the 10th of October is dedicated to a certain theme. And the World Mental Health Day is supported by the WHO through raising awareness on mental health issues using its strong relationship with the Ministries of Health and civil society organizations across the globe. WHO also supports with developing technical and communication material. And today, what a great coincidence that it is celebrating the mental health promotion and suicide prevention. So for the theme of 2019, the mental health promotion and suicide prevention is the motto of this year. And therefore today we are also going to touch on the suicide prevention programs all over the world, especially under the auspice of the WHO and the World Mental Health forums. So really the World Mental Health Day is about awareness of the suffering of people who are suffering from mental health problems, and the people that are suffering alone and sometimes could be pushed to the wall and commit suicide. So today the motto of the day, or the theme of the day of the World Mental Health Day, was to increase awareness and at the same time to combat suicide thoughts and suicide actions. So in order to discuss this big problem and increase the awareness, a lot of celebrities are really helping and supporting this. And today was a beautiful video that went viral all over the internet, which was about Ed Sheeran and Prince Harry, who team up for the World Mental Health Day. Well, the video is a very comic video as a start, because you will find out that the two most famous redhead people in the world are teaming together. Ed Sheeran and Harry, Prince Harry. Every one of them is red-headed, and of course they are very famous for that. So the powerful words from Prince Harry is that people all over the world are really suffering. So Ed Sheeran wanted to make it a bit comic in order to attract the attention of the people, referring to the fact that both of them are red-headed, and every red-headed has suffered from this all over the world, because people are always trying to mock the redhead, saying that they are ill-tempered, or that they are different, or that they are stigmatized. So Ed Sheeran was able to attract the attention of the people who got mixed up, even Prince Harry in the beginning. So are we going to change the subject to redhead, or we're going to talk about the mental health problem? Well, yes, of course. This was a very smart move from Ed Sheeran, because people don't understand what it's like for people like us. Say Ed, referring to his redhead. Then the jokes, the snide comments, it's time we stood up and said we're not going to take this anymore. So in the beginning we think that they are talking about redhead, but actually they are not. We are ginger and we're going to fight. Yes, they are ginger redhead. But he goes sneakily into the real right subject. They want to ensure that not just today, but every day we look after yourself, your friends, and those around you. Yes. This is the mental health problem. There is no need to suffer in silence. Share how you are feeling. Ask how someone is doing and listen for the answer. Be willing to ask for help when you need it, and know that we are all in this together. So Ed was able to attract our attention to the problem smartly. Yes, both of them are red-headed, but both of them don't suffer from any mental health problem. Both of them are the most famous red-headed people in the world. But just that they are carrying the stigma of being redhead, it's exactly like the stigma of having a mental illness. Yes, people look at redhead people as very attractive, but people who look at mentally health people think of them that they are not attractive at all. So there is no need to suffer in silence. We have to share how we are feeling. Ask how someone is doing and listen for the answer. Sometimes you would ask your friend, how are you feeling today? And simply you are not waiting for an answer. And this could put a lot of pressure on your friend. If you are not listening to his answer, or you're taking it casually, or you're taking it recklessly, then what will happen? You will ask for your help, and when you need it, and know that we are all in this together. Yes, we have to give support to the mentally ill people. We have to give support to their families, and we have to listen. So these beautiful Christian words, they want to change, both of them, the Prince and King and Ginger Ed, as he called himself. They have to get together to change the perception of people with mental illness. So how can we do that? How can we really put or release the stigma from stigmatizing people with mental illness, of cornering them in a corner in our lives, forcing them for desperation and even to suicide? So the theme of this year of the World Mental Health Day is about awareness and suicide prevention.
So back again, World of Info and World Mental Health Day.
Oh, so this is your topic. The ball is in your court, as they always say, because you are a psychologist.
Yes, and
so you will tell us all about the World Mental Health Day, because after the viral video of Prince Harry and Ed Sheeran today, which was really very thoughtful of them, and covering this, enveloping this with a cherry on the top of the bit comic attitude
to
make a
ginger
head. So it makes the problem really identifiable and approachable. And this was very smart of Ed Sheeran and Prince Harry today. So tell us, what do you think of this day? Because you're a psychologist and there is a problem. And we have seen recently two movies that have, one of them has really attracted the silver lining, they attracted the attention of the people towards mental health, and of course the Joker with the negative impact of it. So Silver Lining was a positive,
Yes.
and the other movie of the Joker was completely negative. Tell us about that.
Okay, so I'm going to keep these two movies aside now, and just talking about the focus on suicide prevention and some data related to that. As we all, not as we all know, but it's stated that every 40 seconds someone loses their life to suicide, and that's why today the WHO had raised the awareness through saying that today we have to dedicate 40 seconds of action, each and every one of us, 40 seconds of action, because in that second someone might be killing themselves. So they actually, if you are interested to know more about this, you can check the WHO website. Today they're having a lot of videos on how to, short series of videos of how to help people who are actually suffering from different types of emotional disturbances. And I will say that as a suicide data, there are 800,000 people who die by suicide every year. For each suicide, there are more than 20 attempts of suicide. And this has a ripple effect on families, friends, colleagues, communities, and societies. And also, we have to have the good news is preventable. Much can be done to prevent suicide at individual, community, and also national level. Basically, more males do commit suicide than females. Basic age can be actually between 19 years until maybe 40 and 45, but that of course does not exclude younger or older adults. So that's basically the statistics, or the rough statistics. It does not occur in high-income countries only. It also occurs in, it's a global phenomenon. Over 79% of global suicide occurs in low and middle-income countries. That's the statistic based on 2016. And it's a very, very serious mental health. Who is at risk?
Everybody is at risk, right?
Everybody is at risk. While there is always a link between suicide and mental disorders, like depression. We link depression to suicide, or we link substance abuse to suicide. However, many suicides happen impulsively, and they happen in moments of crisis, breakdown in the ability to deal with life stressors such as finances or financial problems, relationship breakups, chronic pain and illnesses. And of course, in regions that are experiencing conflicts and disasters, violence, abuse, loss, and a sense of isolation, these are also strongly associated with suicidal behavior.
Wow.
Yes. Also, suicide are also high in vulnerable groups who experience discrimination, such as refugees, asylum seekers, migrants, prisoners. And by far the strongest risk factor for suicide, we always consider it to be in our profession if you have a previous suicide attempt. Okay, so that's usually the case. And methods of suicide, usually, because it's important to know what are the methods, and this I will be speaking about later when we are actually faced with someone who is suicidal or someone who is thinking of killing themselves.
So we have to make the things more clear to our listeners that there are 16 million suicide attempts every year in the whole world, and of them 800,000 are pretty successful.
Yes.
So this is a very big problem that we are dealing with.
Sure.
And unfortunately there has to be care from our society towards that, usually because we are a religious society, and people think that this doesn't come to the minds, whether they are Muslims or Christians. The idea of people killing themselves is not simply coming to
related
the mind
to
religion, but we have to emphasize that there has to be a suicide hotline, which we know that it is there.
We have one, but it's still limited in use. And actually, I will talk about how to prevent. I'll talk about how people, when you are faced with someone who is actually committed suicide, what should you do? So I will be talking about this
Let's talk about
after the break.
Okay.
So back again, and World Mental Health Day today, October 10, and initiated by the WHO in collaboration with other associations. So what are the challenges to suicide prevention? actually have a lot of plans in order to prevent suicide in different societies. One of them is to reduce the access to means of suicide. That's why I mentioned we have to understand the majority of people, how do they commit suicide? For example, by shooting, by hanging, by poison. So we need on a national level to know the causes. Again, reports of the media, school-based interventions, introducing certain policies related to alcohol or mental illnesses, early identification and treatment and care of people with emotional distress, substance abuse, depression, and so on. However, what are the challenges for that?
So, I find it very difficult to be able to reach a person who is on the edge of committing suicide. And me as a plastic surgeon, sometimes patients come to me with cut wrist or attempted wounding or self-inflicted wounds, and we always find ourselves in this trouble. So how
ask, what is this? What happened? Why are you injured that way? Okay, so this is number one. First of all, there is always a challenge when it comes to dealing with suicide and dealing with these risky situations. Yes, first of all, the stigma and taboo. The stigma, particularly surrounding mental health. And suicide means that many people taking their own lives. If we are in a society that believe that this can be some kind of against religion or a bad deed that they are doing, then they will never tell you that they are planning or thinking of committing suicide. They will never.
Every person who comes to you and say, "I'm thinking of suicide," you have to take that very seriously. I think this is the first step.
By all means, they don't have to tell me. I ask at the very, very beginning, from the first session. We have to ask this question: have you ever attempted suicide? Because people who have in the past attempted suicide are at high risk. Have you ever thought about death? Have you ever thought about killing yourself? Have you ever thought about committing suicide? Okay, and you will find different answers. Mostly people are going to tell you this answer: yes, I think I am always thinking about death, but I never had the courage to kill myself. You need to find the plan, and actually it's enough to say yes. It's enough that the person starts telling you that I've been thinking about that. The suicidal ideation is important. So you just need to attack this directly. But if people who come to therapy actually are people who are ready to talk and ready to solve the problems, and they are not affected by the stigma. But what about people who are affected by the stigma of mental illness? This is a challenge in the way.
That's why perhaps in 1992 the first idea of making the World Mental Health Day was to remove the stigma.
Exactly.
And to lead to the fact that there should be acceptance of a mental health patient, exactly like you accept the cancer patient or the cardiac patient or whatever.
And suicide in particular has never been adequately addressed, as today's video by Prince Harry and Ed Sheeran. They mentioned that it's not widely covered and it's not discussed widely. So we discuss depression, anxiety, but not suicide, and it's the almost always avoided topic. It's a taboo. Another thing is that we have a problem with statistics and data and the data quality, because not only in Egypt, all over the world, sometimes people, you don't know whether the person committed suicide or not. In sociology, the first research in sociology was about suicide, and they weren't able to understand whether the person killed themselves by taking the wrong medicine or by they were actually intentionally did that. Nobody can ask them, of course, and therefore it was a big problem to understand why are the truth statistics related to suicide.
And of course the social problem always will
religious beliefs.
Will make people self-deny. I mean, the family after the death of the deceased,
of course,
they would always say he didn't jump from the 7th floor. He
fell.
Was trying to. He fell. He just lost his balance. And somebody, when he's a victim of a burn by suicide, he would say it just exploded.
Yes,
The kerosene
something
stove
happened.
exploded.
Yes.
Nobody, he didn't throw himself
Yes, this
gasoline.
is because of religious beliefs, and I think that there has to be some awareness and a campaign with religious leaders to reach out for people and talk to them from a psychological point of view, not from a religious point of view. Like when you say to the person, it's haram, it's not right that you commit suicide, you will go to hell. People who are suicidal, they're not thinking of that. They have another mindset that's totally different. I'm talking about that in a few minutes. Also, some countries, it's illegal to commit suicide. I don't know whether in our country is it illegal or not, but I know it's irreligious, and it's attacked by religion here. But related to illegality, there are some countries who this is illegal. Again, underreporting, misclassification sometimes are greater problems for suicide than for most causes of death. So first of all, there is some caution that we need to do, especially with teenagers. And this is the time of transition. This is the time for bullying. This is the time for being overwhelmed with school, overwhelmed with exams, overwhelmed with their life, and they don't understand. This is a stage where they are sometimes treated as children, other times they're treated as adults. When it comes to their freedom, they are children. When it comes to their duties, they're adults. We speak to them as adults.
And
so
this is,
sometimes there is identity problem. Sometimes there's a problem related to schoolwork. There's a problem related to parenting, and the stigma, of course.
And I believe one of the biggest problems that we should be all as a society fighting is bullying. Because bullying can push people to the edge, especially the people who are outcasted because they are not beautiful, they are not coping with the other children, they are different. Just the way different does not mean that he should be bullied, or he or she should be bullied.
Teachers and
this is the work of the teachers. Yes.
Teachers and principals should be trained, and they should look for the signs of a depressed child, the signs of a depressed teenager, to know how to develop a compassionate and a sensitive conversation with the child. This is very, very important. Talk. The hashtag for WHO today is let's talk. Okay, so let's talk. Yes, let's talk about anything. And the other thing is to know how to create safe school environment where students know they can actually talk and seek help. It's safe for them, because a lot of students might not go to the school psychologist because their friends will know that they are maybe, you're crazy, you're going to the school psychologist. It can be a stigma. So the school psychologists need to reach out for the students more. Now, in an emergency, dangers may not be obvious, okay? And when a person is really hitting rock bottom, yes, and it's very difficult to see the person. Sometimes you'd say, okay, I don't want to be around a sad person. I don't want to be around someone who would cause me to be upset or sad, nikadi, and this is what we say. This is when today we need to reach out for the people who are sad. We need to talk to them. Just talk. Listen to them. Listen to their agony. Don't be judgmental when they're talking, when they're saying something. Like, why are you sad? You're not supposed to be sad. You have everything in life. No, that's
so crushing, because you're going to stop him from complaining.
Be the bridge between this person and life.
This is, I think, what the message that Ed Sheeran and Prince Harry did today is listen and wait for the answer. Ask and wait for the answer, because sometimes people will just, as I've just mentioned before the break, is that you say, hi, how are you? And you don't wait for the answer. Exactly.
You always talk and you never listen.
Me?
Not me. No, actually there's another thing. This is a word for everyone here out there. Do you feel like life is not worth it? Now, everyone is prone to be in this situation. Yes. We are never immune. Okay, when do you think that you need to talk to someone? Okay, when first of all pain seems overwhelming and unbearable, you can't take it anymore, you feel hopeless, you feel consumed by negative and disturbing thoughts all the time, you can't imagine any solution for your problems, then this is very good ground and very fertile ground for suicide. Sometimes there's some feelings of worthlessness, loneliness, sometimes you don't really understand why you're feeling that way or thinking that way. Everything is so fine in your life, but you still are feeling and thinking that way. This is, you need to remember certain points. First, you're not alone. Many people have the same kind of thoughts. Many people have the same situation. So that's, you are not alone, and there are people there who are out there who can help you. It's okay to talk about suicide. Just say it. I am thinking of killing myself. Just say it to anyone, a close person, somebody you know, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a doctor, anyone. Say I am. So they will reach for help.
Yelling for help is
Yell
not a
for
crime.
help, yes.
Yelling for help is not a crime.
Yes,
actually.
exactly. Asking for help. I will not say ask for help, just ask. Having an episode of self-harm or a suicidal thought or a plan is a very, very significant sign for a severe emotional distress. Usually comes with loss of employment, a relationship problem, a result of a loss of a loved one, violence, abuse, a breakup, and sometimes there is what we call postponed grief, or something like a postponed kind of
cry tomorrow
abuse. Yes. So you cannot you're not to be blamed, and it can happen to anyone. Again, I say it can happen to anyone. You can get better, and there are people who can help you. So that's the message for if you are feeling any of these feelings or thoughts, just ask for help.
I think this is a very good advice. Ask for help, and people will stay with you and will care for you. So after the break, more about the Mental Health Day. So we're still with the World Mental Health Day, and today we have a psychologist, Najla Nagib.
Today I'm having a different identity.
Not the anchor lady, Najla Nagib.
Yes.
She's a psychologist, and she's good at it. And she's discussing the most important problem, the stigma.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the stigma, because talking about suicide is very hard.
Yes, but I just before I just move to the stigma, just let me have one thing, because the stigma leads you to say things to people who are suicidal, and this is not advisable, and this is the most important thing. If you now I told you about if a person is not feeling well, he will do 1, 2, 3, 4. If you feel this and this, you have to go and ask for help. What if you see someone who is suicidal? What do you tell them? For example, a lot of parents, and this I have seen a lot, parents who their kid come with this crying and with these negative feelings and so on. What do you tell them? What not to tell them? First of all, the first thing you should do is listen to them. Just listen. Do not interfere in the talk. What is going on? What is happening? Always make it a habit before anything happens, or before any serious incident happens, to ask them every single day what's going on. Open a discussion with them about different stuff, so they are used to discussing and talking with the parent all the time. And when you have a boy who's crying, you don't say, boys don't cry. Your father never cried when he was young. Your grandfather was a hero. And so you're putting a lot of burden on your son or daughter at that stage. There are certain things that you need to avoid saying, and not only for teenagers, for everyone who is into that state. First of all, it's not that bad. Stay positive. First of all, this is very wrong. It's invalidating, because you are invalidating the feelings. What do you mean by saying, of course he will stay positive if he can, but they cannot. In fact, their ability to express their feelings is a very big step. So when you tell them this, you're shutting them down. You stop them from completing. When you say, I know how you feel, I've been in that before, I'll be devastated if you do something like that. When you say this to someone suicidal, actually it's impossible to know how they feel. It's impossible to know how anybody is feeling. Its feelings are related to the person.
So this is not a wake-up call. Don't say this sentence.
No way, because also you're also making it about yourself, not about the person who's speaking. Again, you are listening to yourself, not listening to the person, and it makes the conversation about you. This can be frustrating for the person, and sometimes it raises guilt feelings, because I will harm my parents, and guilt feelings, when they increase the ideas of suicide. Third, you're telling the person.
So what should we do?
Okay, you have a lot of good things. You have your family. You have your life. Now, this is again a wrong thing, because the person is not in a good mind state to count their blessings. Okay, so you don't tell them about the blessings. What they know. And other things is other people have it worse. You're being selfish. Why are you thinking? Think of so and so who is having this kind of misery, or this person who is ill and sick. Actually, this isn't a contest where someone deserves the right to be depressed. Okay.
So come on, you have blocked all the choices. What should we do?
And finally, no, I have to say what you should not say. Something like you'll go to hell. Okay, even if your religion holds this belief, it doesn't mean that I believe the same way. Maybe I'm not a believer. Maybe I'm from a different religion, and so on. And still, again, it's not helpful, and to deter someone and to threaten someone that if he does this or that, he's going to go to hell. Now, all of this are avoiding statements, and these are very, very common statements that people usually say when a person is committing suicide.
So don't tell me that you're going to tell us what we should say next episode.
Yes, you will. So we'll take a break and get back, and I'll tell you what's the what you should be doing with the person. And it's a surprise. So what do you do?
What to do? So just for the people who have just joined in,
yes,
we have to tell them, because this is the final words of this episode.
Yes.
What should we do when you have a patient or a person who's saying
not a patient, it has to be a person in your family.
In the family who's saying,
yes.
I am very depressed, I might commit suicide.
Once you hear someone saying they want to die, even to hear a complete stranger saying these words, this is hard for you. You'll be shocked at the very beginning. And I can find an excuse of just saying, why? Everything is so happy, Ahmed Rabban, and so on. This is the first thing you say. However, show support, okay? Avoid being judgmental or dismissive. Listen. What is happening? What is going on? Why are you saying that? Okay, so the person starts talking. Okay, this is first. Speak from the heart. There are no right or wrong words to say, but before you just utter a word, just comfort the person. Tell them that you are prepared to listen to them, that you are prepared to accept their feelings.
That we're going to try to solve the problem together?
No.
Don't say this.
No, don't say solving the problem, because sometimes there are no problem. Sometimes a person who is suicidal has no problem. They're just feeling that way. Listen, a suicidal person usually is carrying around some burden they feel they just can't handle anymore. Now, offer to listen as they vent their feelings of despair, their anger, loneliness, and sometimes this is enough for them to carry. Remain open, be sympathetic, non-judgmental. If in doubt, you just ask directly, are you thinking of suicide? Do you have a plan? What are the main things that, if you're having a plan, what are you intending to use if you are committing suicide, if you are going to carry on your plan? Then you start dealing with, in accordance with the level. If the person is just thinking about suicide and killing and so on, you have to speak and listen and speak and listen, offer help. Offer help by not just, why don't you go to a psychiatrist and just leave them on their own? No, you just follow up with them until they are in safe hands. And finally, if the majority say they have no definite plan, you just listen, and you try to help and make steps towards that. Avoid trying to solve problems. Try not to offer quick solutions. And how big they perceive the problem to be and how much they are hurting over it is what counts. Rational arguments do little good to persuade a person when they are in that state of mind. Instead, offer empathy, offer compassion, and for what they are feeling without making judgments about whether they should feel that way. That's the most important advice. And in case you have seen an attempted suicide, just call the ambulance immediately. There is no time.
Well, today episode was about the World Mental Health Day, an important
suicide
day,
prevention.
And so the theme of the World Mental Health today, of this year, was suicide prevention. Najla Nagib was very careful to give us a lot of information about suicide and about how to prevent it.
Yes, and listen to everyone. And for people who are not feeling well, please talk to anyone.
Yes, and please continue listening to us in World of Info next week, and you'll feel definitely better. This today was Amr Mabrouk, at the controls was Dua Muhammad. Najla Nagib was our guest and host for today. And stay tuned to Radio Cairo, Nadine Emil to follow 95.4 FM. Coming live from Studio 3, Cairo.
Thank you.